Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's just a little after 6, but we're going to go ahead and begin. And we'll begin with some special guests that Dr. True will introduce to us, who will be leading our pledge tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Woods. I do want to welcome everyone. We have a full house tonight for our summer board meeting. Especially want to welcome two Jefferson students to come and join me. This is Pierce and Elaina Nakhla. They're going to help me with the pledge. And I think during this, you guys should get extra credit, because not only are you coming to do the pledge, you're doing it during the summer. And so you get bonus points for that, because I know you probably have better things to do with your summer than come to do a school thing, right? So what have you been doing, I guess, if to introduce yourself to the crowd a little bit? What have you been doing this summer? How are you spending your time, Pierce? Anything exciting? Vacations? Traveling? Where have you traveled?
To Canada.
To Canada. Okay, he wins. So what did you do while you were in Canada?
Visited family.
Visited family, very good. Did you guys do anything special or fun up there? See any sights? No, just family? Okay. Did you get to go on this trip as well?
Yeah.
That's good. So what has been the best part of your summer? Is it Canada, or were there other things?
Probably Canada.
Probably Canada. Very good. Well, you guys have had quite an exciting summer to leave the country. Glad you came back, and glad you were here to join us tonight. So we're going to ask everybody if you would please stand, and we're going to swing around. The flag is right behind us. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did not officially call the meeting to order, so just to be proper with Robert's rules, the Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 Kingsport City Schools Board of Education regular meeting is now called to order. And thank you again, students. We hope you have a wonderful year that's coming up soon, very soon. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda, which includes the consent agenda. Once the agenda is accepted, the board mutually agrees not to discuss any item of business or take any action that has not been accepted for the agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, if you would cast your vote.
I'm not there yet,
Okay.
so.
We can just do a verbal vote on this. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We will continue on. Okay, and I would like for the girls softball team to please come up. If you all will just stand right over here. Fine looking group of young ladies. It is my honor to be able to recognize the 2024 Dobyns-Bennett girls softball team, who had an overall record of 35-11. They were the East Tennessee Classic champions during spring break. They went to Murfreesboro the first time and went 4-2, and little did they know they'd be back in Murfreesboro just a few weeks later. They were the district tournament champions, the region champions. They earned the first ever state berth in Dobyns-Bennett softball history. They were state champions, which was also the first time in school history. And I'll have to say, it was really a sight to behold, seeing those girls run in on the field for graduation, still in uniform, with their robes over top. It was really a memory for sure. Some individual honors that I wanted to recognize: all conference honors, pitcher of the year, Julianne Tipton; first team, Allie McConnelly, Peyton Moore, and Haley Porter; second team, Sophie Dean and Riley McMillan; and honorable mention is Katie Zaney. I hope I said that correctly. All conference tournament team, most valuable player, Julianne Tipton; Also Sophie Dean, Allie McConnelly, and Riley McMillan. The Northeast Tennessee Super 16 Player of the Year, Julianne Tipton. Honorary Batting Order, Haley Porter. Coach of the Year, Andy Hubbard. The All-State Team, which is the Tennessee Sports Writer Association, Julianne Tipton. And she happened to have 600 career strikeouts, which is a school record. Haley Porter had 17 home runs this season, which is also a school record. You know, lots of records were broken by you ladies, and we are so proud of you. 6 seniors have signed to play softball in college. That's quite an accomplishment. And then, of course, they were the 2024 TSSAA Class 4A Girls Softball State Champion Tourney winners in Murfreesboro, May 24, 2024. And they won that final game 3-2 against Stewart's Creek High School. Ladies, we are so proud of you. And I had a coach share with me, and you know, this is what happens when you win championships. It's not one player. It's not 2 players. It requires the whole team. And when you're a team, when one player's having a bad game, you pick them up, and somebody else steps up. And that's what a coach told me, that with this team, when a player was down, someone else slid in their spot. I think if you watched any of the Tennessee baseball season this year, you saw the exact same thing. You've learned valuable lessons that you'll carry with you throughout your entire lives. And I hope that you continue to pick one another up. I hope you never lose contact with each other. You have a special bond, I know. And again, we are so proud of you. Give them another round of applause.
Typically, I like to have everyone in front of that logo. Now, parents, you're welcome to come take pictures if you want to. We need to, Rose. Okay, that'd be great. Can we wait just a second? We need coaches. How about let's do this? Let's file in front of Okay. You all go ahead. Y'all go ahead. Don't need me. Congratulations. That's like a good reading, right?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and honor some more state champions. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, these are repeat state champions, and that'll be by Mr. Tim Dean.
Well, this is opportunity I hadn't had too awful much in my life, having grown up in the county over in Linview. But I did get to coach with Mike Ritz one year, and we got to go to the state tournament. So I know how hard it is. I know how difficult what you guys achieved is. And it's my honor to recognize you all for the 4x800. I just think about that. You know, when we were in high school, Bob, there's a 220 and a 440 and the 880. And the 880 was like a jog. They don't jog. And it's amazing what you guys have been able to do. And not only do you do it great for us, you did it best of anybody in the state tournament, and you set a new record, right? So I want to recognize you, congratulate you, and maybe get you to come up and take a picture. And we also wanted to recognize Luke Mussard, who won the 1,600 meter run won the state championship. But Luke is, you say he's already in? He's already in summer school. So congratulations to him too. It's a phenomenal accomplishment. And I've got this, there's this thing that Bob will understand. The older you get, the better you were. So you don't feel so great right now, but when you're 65, you're going to look back and think, man, I was unbelievable. You'll get it then. So congratulations, and come on up and let's do this.
And let me add, when Coach Bingham says Luke is in summer school, he's in summer school at the University of Tennessee where he's running track. So the good summer school.
Not the one I used to take.
Not the one I used to teach.
So Luke is your other one.
Bingham, you want to get in the picture?
You guys all stand.
Coach, let my girl sit out.
1, 2, 3.
Hold on, here comes Coach Bingham.
And parents, if you would like to come up and get a picture, please do. Please slide right on up there. Oh, really?
1, 2, 3.
He's getting all sick.
1, 2, 3.
Great job, guys.
Mr. Alshy, Mr. Haygood, and Mr. Thomas, congratulations. We're so proud of you. Great job.
Thank you all.
At this time, we're going to go ahead and move to the business portion of our meeting. And business item 5.1 is Student Disciplinary Hearing Authority Placement Decision Appeal. Oh, my apologies. My apologies.
Nobody's left.
I know, I looked out there. And exactly. Let's go with the public comment. This is the time when members of the audience are invited to comment on agenda items. It is not the time to speak about personnel issues, as there are more appropriate ways in which these can be addressed. If you're not sure how to do this, please ask one of us after the meeting. In your remarks, you may not refer to students by name without permission from the parent or guardian. If you would like to speak on a topic not included on the agenda, you're asked to submit your request in writing to the superintendent of schools at least 3 business days prior to the scheduled date of the meeting. Now, if you would like to speak about an item included on this agenda, you will be asked to please raise your hand. You will be requested to state your name and limit your remarks to a maximum of 3 minutes. Okay, and seeing none, we will move forward. Now we will go to our business item 5.1 with Mr. Nash.
Mr. Dean will be back. Here in just a second.
Bingham.
Yeah, Bingham, that's I'm with you.
Excuse me. We had a misprint on one of those, and I want to make sure that we got it right.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Go ahead.
All right, you're welcome. So I come to you this evening. We have a parent of a student, and I do want to remind you that during this time we can discuss nothing regarding the student or anything individually related to this student. But there was a student that was had a placement via the high school to the alternative school. The parent, which they absolutely can from a procedural standpoint, appealed that. And we had a Student Disciplinary Hearing Authority meeting, at which point the SDHA, Student Disciplinary Hearing Authority, upheld the placement that the high school had made at the alternative school for this particular student. And then the parent was notified that they do have a right to appeal to the board, which the board can, they can choose to review the record. And if the board chooses to review the record, just as a reminder from Board Policy 6.317, the board can either affirm the decision of the hearing authority, or they can modify the decision to a lesser penalty, or they can choose to grant a hearing before the board. If there were to be a hearing before the board, that would be closed unless the parent or student were to elect to make that a public hearing. And then if you have questions about processes or procedures that relate to students in placement alternative school and the SDHA, I'm more than happy to answer those. And Mr. Bart is here this evening too, should you have questions from a legal perspective.
Okay, so just to clarify, each board member has received information regarding the disciplinary hearing in question. So, and as he also stated, no details can be discussed. And so, are there any questions regarding the process as stated in the policy? Okay, hearing none.
I want to make sure I understand what ground we're on here. So, we can't discuss anything even if we're protecting the identity of the child or the parents. We can't talk about this information we received at all?
Correct. If you, my understanding, and if you want to add to that, if the board wanted to elect to discuss all that, it would be in a closed hearing unless a parent or student were to request that it be public. You each received it individually, the information, and had a chance to review that. But I cannot tonight answer specifics regarding.
And I don't have any questions. I have comments, but I just don't know what's appropriate and what's not.
I don't think we should. My opinion would be we would not discuss anything specifically related to this student or actions that may have occurred with this student.
Okay.
So if we have
Anything that could identify the student would not be
I understand that.
appropriate to discuss here. And the way the statute's written, there is that carve out for a hearing should the board choose to grant one, which can, the statute specifically says that is, such a hearing is exempted from the Open Meetings Act, but that's the only condition under which you're exempt from the Open Meetings Act. So it kind of forces your hand to deliberate or on deliberating in public, which then you can't identify the student.
Does the parent have the right to come to us and say, I want to meet with you all privately to hear what you have to say about this situation? Or is their appeal already taken place in the form of to the committee?
Well, they appealed to the committee, and then they appealed to the board, and you were given that information.
But we don't get the opportunity to tell them why we vote yay or nay on there.
So we're basically today either saying if we want to deliberate and have discussion about it to possibly change something, then we really need to have a closed hearing. Unless, of course, the parents want an open hearing.
You're right. You would have to vote to elect to grant a hearing before the board.
So at this point, our options are to affirm the decision of the hearing authority, to modify that decision to a lesser penalty, or grant a hearing before the board. So it is my understanding that the parents have been made aware of why the decision was made to begin with.
That's correct, and parents are always involved in the SDHA hearings. They're part of that process. They have opportunity to speak, give information, ask questions. The committee may ask questions of the parents and of the student. It's a discussion, and then the committee makes a decision, which in this case, because there is appeal, the student was placed. We affirmed the decision of the high school at that time. And so then the parent, within their rights of due process, has appealed that decision to be possibly reviewed by you as a board or to grant a hearing.
I think I can say this. There's disconnect between information we received as singular versus multiple. That's my only hang up. There appears to be a disconnect in understanding along the way. I can't go any further than that. You just have to read the stuff closely. You follow me?
Yep.
You follow me?
I understand the decision of the committee.
So do I.
How many members are on the committee?
The SDHA has 5 members. We must have at least 3 of those 5 at each hearing. There was 3 of us at this particular hearing, of which I chair that committee. And actually, in the consent agenda, there was for the upcoming year, the new members, some of them are repeating,
Correct.
some are new. But every year you approve those 5 members. We can have no more than the number that are on the Board of Education.
Okay?
Just for further clarification, the parent was also provided a copy with the statute, which lays out the process, and we're informed this would be on the agenda at tonight's meeting.
And a copy of the board policy related to
That's you.
Okay. Well, at this time then, I move to affirm the decision of the Student Disciplinary Hearing Authority. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, at this time, we'll cast our votes.
Are we up? Is it up? System up, Phoebe?
Yes, sir.
I tapped in the motion, so I wasn't sure what to do.
Yeah. There you go. Yep.
Please cast your vote.
Thank you, Phoebe. Did you vote?
Okay, for time's sake, we'll just go ahead and have an audible vote.
Wait, let me just make sure. So we're voting that we agree with the SDA. We're not, what about lessening it or having a hearing? Is that off the table at this point? I'm confused.
Well, if you, the motion and the second is to affirm the decision of the hearing authority. That's option 1. That is to affirm their decision. We can only make one decision out of those 3. And so the motion on the floor is to affirm the decision of the hearing authority. That motion has been seconded, and now we will vote. We're having some technical difficulties.
But nothing came up. Did anything come up for you, Brandon?
And he's,
I got it. Mine was good.
yeah, I
I
don't
did
know
too.
because you're on.
She's showing both of us can vote.
It says electronic voting in process.
For time's sake, let's just go ahead and have an audible vote. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, and any abstentions? Okay, so the record would show 3 yeses and 1 no. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then now our next item is item 5.2, budget amendment number 1, Mr. David Fry.
Good evening. So we're bringing to you for your consideration this evening a budget amendment to our recently approved FY 24-25 annual operating budget. This amendment is to adjust the cost of living increase that was included in that budget from a 1% cost of living increase to a 5% cost of living increase. Obviously, that's an additional 4%. We started out the budget process back in January, February, with hopes that we could do a 5% cost of living increase. As we got more revenue estimates in, we lowered that down to a 3% cost of living increase. And then by the time we finally got the budget approved and had more revenue estimates and realized what our state revenues were going to be and what our projected county property tax and county sales tax revenues were going to be, we finally ended up with a 1% cost of living increase. We have internally been discussing this, looking at our results of operations from last year, from FY24, considering economic conditions that our employees are having to deal with and rates of inflation and that sort of stuff. We're coming to you with this projection to increase it back to the 5% increase. The cost of this will be approximately $2,519,600. We're proposing to fund this increase out of our unreserved fund balance. That is an appropriation of one-time funds to fund a recurring budget item. This is something that I don't take lightly in recommending to the board. But in light of all the circumstances, I'm making that recommendation. We did end the year with some savings in our budget that allowed us to add to our fund balance, a modest addition to our fund balance this year. It would have been a larger increase had it not been for some revenue issues with property taxes that we experienced. We ended the year about $3.5 million short in our property taxes, but we'd also budgeted for some one-time expenditures this year that we knew that we were not going to have the revenue, and we didn't spend that money. We also had some outcomes money from TSSAA that came in. We did not spend that money. So we did, if we'd had revenue that we thought we were going to initially have, we would have, instead of adding $500,000 to our fund balance at the end of the year, we would have added $2.5 million to our fund balance. We traditionally have an addition to our fund balance. In my tenure in this position, I can only remember once or twice that we have not had an addition to our fund balance as a result of operations. This board and the Kingsport City Schools has traditionally budgeted very conservatively, modest revenue estimates, and we budget our full expenditures that we expect to happen. We traditionally have savings from salaries as a result of positions that have gone unfilled throughout the year, as a result of employee turnover. When we budget for a certain number of teachers that are at the end of their career and retiring, and they're at the top of the pay scale, and those teachers retire and replace them with beginning teachers. In most cases, we don't always hire beginning teachers, but there's traditionally some savings from that. So we ended last year with a fund balance of just short of $12 million, and I'm projecting that our fund balance at the end of this year is going to be about $12.5 million. This would bring our fund balance down to $10 million. Our general purpose budget is right around $100 million, so that would be about 10% of our operating budget. I know the obvious question is that how is this going to be funded in fiscal year 25-26 moving forward, when we're funding this with one-time revenue for a recurring appropriation. Well, I've already stated that we traditionally have savings in our budget as a result of operations. I would expect that to occur again for 24-25 budget. At this point, we don't know of any surprises that are coming in our revenues, any losses. You know, we're pretty confident of what our property tax revenues are going to be. We've estimated a modest 3% increase in sales tax. We know what our TSSAA revenues are going to be based upon our last year's attendance. You know, I would anticipate again some savings in our budget for next year. We're projecting that our enrollment is going to increase, which would result in additional TSSAA funds. It will also result in, depending upon what happens with the enrollment in Sullivan County and Bristol City schools, the way that the county revenues are split, the property taxes and sales tax, those are split based upon the attendance in each school system. This past year, you know, Kingsport City Schools lost 130 students. But if we gain back 100 or 120 students, then our share of county revenues will increase, even without an increase in sales tax or property taxes. It will just increase by our students going up. This may present some challenges for our 25-26 budget, but I feel confident that we can sustain this moving forward. As I said, you know, we'll have about a $10 million fund balance. You know, that still gives us some breathing room there. So, with saying all that, we're recommending that the board approve this additional 4% increase at a cost of $2,519,600, and that money be appropriated from our unreserved fund balance. So,
Thank you for your work on this, and thank you for a very good explanation of how we got from there to here and from here to the future. So thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Fry?
What about pontifications? This hits every hot button. A lot of my value hot buttons on. I've always been kind of a liberal, philosophical person socially, but fiscally pretty conservative. I feel like I need to say this, okay? I was a teacher for 6 years. I wasn't for a semester. So I've been in that position, and I understand. I remember paying $200 a month for my health insurance, and that was a lot for me, you know, and the little boy and my wife. And anyway, so I don't make these comments uneducated about it. The things I don't like about it are the very things I put in the email about Sullivan County pulling out their reserve fund. I think it's extremely short-sighted. Now, there's not a person on this earth that I have more faith in financially than David Fry, much more than myself. And the reason is because I've watched it for 25 years. I know, and I guarantee he'll come up with it next year. But here's the thing I ask you to consider. If there's one thing I wish people would learn about, it's opportunity cost. We spend $2.5 million this year out of that fund. That's roofing we can't put on at Jackson or Adams or can't use it to buy remediation equipment and ideas for children. Everything has an opportunity cost. This opportunity cost is not just this time. It's every single year. $2.5 million, and not, you know, till the end. So we need to remember that. And another thing we don't ever talk about in here, I don't know why, is step increases. Step increases are designed, check me if I'm wrong, as a cost of living increase when a teacher gains another year of tenure, right?
Yes.
About 2% roughly.
Varies on the teacher pay scale, but it varies. I mean, on the classified pay scale, it is a 2% increase.
So it's not as simple as 5%.
Right, no.
It's 7% for the average teacher.
Well,
Close to it. Don't tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, on the average step increase for teachers is about 1.25%.
Okay, so 6.25%.
Right.
Okay. We never talk about the step increase. If you just walked in and you didn't have the education we do about the intimate understanding of how these things work, you'd think that nobody had gotten a cost of living increase for years. That's not true. And I think we still grossly underpay our teachers. And I'm all for paying them. I don't like paying them out of this fund because I worry it'll be painful somewhere along the way, and we'll forget that it happened at this moment and how that got the ball rolling. It won't matter because we're going to be saddled with it. Another thing I don't like is I don't like reacting to what another county does, another system does. We need to be proactive. We should have, if we could do this, we should have done it in January.
I do think, if I understood you correctly, you didn't have all the revenue information to support this kind of decision in January.
What we didn't know in January that we are fairly comfortable, I'm fairly comfortable with right now, is how we ended up the year operationally, financially, operationally ended the year of FY24. You know, in January, I would have thought, you know, I would have said, you know, our fund balance is going to go down by $1 million+. Mm-hmm. But it didn't. It went up by $500,000. So,
but we were expecting a loss, and it would not have surprised you if it went down $1.5 million.
No.
At all.
No, it would not have. But
so you can't make that decision.
But I have that information now.
Yeah, that's right.
But we were really happy in January, you know, well, not really happy. We were content in January to give the 1% on top of the step raises. And I guess it seems to me that we are being very reactionary. I think it's very common knowledge. A lot of people are nervous about the other school system taking it from a non-recurring fund budget. We're doing the same thing, and I agree. You know, we cut a lot of things from a wish list because we couldn't do it. And we are here, number one priority is for those students. Those students having a building that they can learn in, an environment they can learn in, equipment that they can learn from is our number one priority. Our teachers are really number two. We love our teachers. We couldn't do what we do without our teachers. But I do agree with you, Tim, that I think we are getting excited. We're trying to maintain competitive. We're not losing teachers this year because of that. I think we still have a great school system. We have great facilities. We have a great administration. And I think those are some things that go into consideration when somebody is considering employment.
Let me say this one thing. This is the end, I promise you. For the life of me, I don't understand how somebody can sit in Blumpville and in their minds think that a city that resides within Sullivan County who pays the same amount of county taxes as somebody in Blumpville doesn't deserve their share. This whole thing smacked of trying to bypass what was due Bristol and us by taking it out of that fund. That probably, I know people up there, I love people up there, honestly. I really don't think that was the thing, but boy, if you just read it from some other city, you might think, boy, they're trying to just bypass giving the city their share of the tax dollars. It felt like that. I don't think it was. I hope it wasn't. I'm a positive assumption guy. But I would really wish that everybody that lives in the county outside the cities could understand we pay the same tax dollars they do.
And then some.
Right.
And then we pay city.
And then we pay city because we choose to do so we can do more with our education.
Yeah.
It's a choice we make. So anyway, all that kind of got me rared up, but I have total faith you'll be able to come up with it. It's not, me and you ain't gonna have to deal with it, but you all are gonna have to. And I sure would hate to see positions cut or activities cut somewhere along the way because we have to cover that $2.5 million somewhere. So it's not, at first I was prepared to come in here, well, that makes sense. I don't need to say anything about that, but I really thought a lot about it. And I will vote for it. I mean, not that you asked, but you ask in a second. But it's not, I want you to know it's not lightly.
Absolutely.
And I know that's true for all of y'all.
Absolutely. These decisions are not made lightly, and each board member comes in prepared, and it is good to just not say check, check, check. And as much as we have incredible faith in David Fry, we still have a responsibility to read for ourselves and really prepare and ask questions. But I will say a couple things. This is just my opinion. I do have a lot of faith in David. I know he comes from the most conservative approach. Yes. When it comes to these funds. He takes it extremely seriously, way more so than I'm sure his own personal finances, and he's proven that through the years. And so that gives me confidence that we can move forward. And just one thing, I do think facilities are important. I think curriculum is important. But where the magic happens is our educators. And I do feel like we have to take care of them as best we can. All the other stuff's important. It's all important. But to me, without our educators, it will not happen. And so, I know everybody here appreciates our educators. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you didn't. But
I kind of lied. I got one more thing. I'm a great believer in meritocracy. I would feel much better about this money if it was going out based on performance. And people that are underperforming getting less than people that are overperforming. But we're in public education, not private sector. I understand that difference.
well, I
That
think
was just changed 4 years ago, believe it or not. It used to be done on performance, and then we were losing value, so we went to the step increases, much to Ms. Guthrie's dismay and all the challenges there. But yeah, 4 years ago, we were at that performance thing.
I think there's a lot that goes in with that.
Yeah.
And I do think that I have a lot of confidence in our current administration that those who are underperforming will be performing somewhere else. And they're not going to be performing in KCS. And I know those are difficult decisions that are being made. I'm glad I don't make them. I'm going to stay in my lane. And but I know they come with a lot of thought and documentation. And so I do feel better that we are moving forward and we're getting better and better. And I think when we hear data that's coming in, I think we're going to see the results of that.
And I'll add, Mr. Fry did a very good job of explaining the process. We have vetted a structure for 25-26 multiple times, various conversations to make sure, in the worst case scenario, that we can restructure in a way that will allow this amount to be covered. Certainly would limit our opportunity to do future cost of living raises in worst case scenario. Our hopes are, and there are indications that we won't be living in a worst case scenario, in worst case scenario times for 25-26. But also, we wouldn't have made this recommendation in isolation without also consulting with our city partners and the city manager and getting while we don't have to have a seal of approval there, felt very good that there was a seal of approval in our plans moving forward with this adjustment. This is very atypical, so I understand the conversation. I can't imagine that we've ever had a budget amendment in July, let alone one that was $2.5 million out of fund balance for a reoccurring expense. So I understand the how that plays out, but much thought has gone into this for months. I mean, these were conversations in January, but they were even conversations in April and May in anticipation, because we thought there might have been a property tax increase, and we thought there might have been an allocation, and in fact, if there were an allocation, we would be coming in this direction anyway. But and there's the last thing I'll say about that. We have some classified staff who are already comparably speaking, underpaid.
I thought about that.
And so when you take a 5 to 15% increase to our 1% for people who are already making less than those districts, we're approaching a 20% deficit for classified staff.
Yep.
Now, for someone in my position, that I certainly wouldn't consider other options. I imagine most of our professional staff, or our certified staff, all of our staff are professionals. Our certified staff probably wouldn't. I think they would trust and live in the culture. But for those who 5% will make the difference in a utility bill or meals on the table, this decision is as much for them as it is for anybody. And those people, and it's not a lack of loyalty, it would be the cost of living. Literally the cost of living, that they might have to choose to work in a different district for financial reasons. And we've never been that place. And I'd like to keep us from being that place.
Okay, any other discussion or questions for Mr. Fry? Very good discussion, very good discussion. Then is there a motion to approve budget amendment number 1?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, and we're going to try to cast our votes here. We'll see how that goes.
I should be in there now. Yeah, I mean, mine. Can you get it? Yeah.
Well, okay.
Did you get one? Okay, let's,
This side of the table.
yeah. We've added Brandon this time. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you again,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Fry.
Thank you.
And Dr. Hampton, I know you, as well as I'm sure others, have been working a lot of hours to come up with this, and we're
Right.
grateful, and we're really extremely grateful to the people who make it happen, and that's all of our educators.
We're
So
glad
thank you very
glad
much.
to do it.
I'm running out of time to tell you, but I really appreciate everything you do. I understand, and I'm glad you're here, man.
Okay, just a couple things before we talk about times and dates of meetings. Each of the board members should have received, and this was kind of part of the consent agenda, but our meeting dates for the coming year. There's just a couple of changes because of fall break, et cetera, et cetera. So if you'll just make sure and look at those carefully, but that is in place. And then there will be one change to the 2024-25 school year projected annual school board agenda, given our election cycle. The first item in July of 2024, the review of BOE responsibilities, that will be moved to September. But other than that, I think everything was good, and that those corrections will be made before everything's filed. Okay, so upcoming meetings. Next week, some of us will be attending TSBA Summer Law in Gatlinburg. Our next work session is July 23rd, and then we'll be in August. School will be in session. That's hard to believe. Our business meeting will be on the 13th, and then a work session on the 27th, and then on into September will be September 10th for our business meeting. Okay.
When are the new folks being sworn in? Will it be the September meeting?
September 10th, yes. Okay. Any other discussion? I know you and some folks have been spending the last couple days in retreat, and I'm sure there was a lot of good discussion and celebration and rubber to the road kind of conversations.
It was 2 days of long days. Probably, I guess we pushed 10-hour day yesterday. We finished, I think, by 3:30 today. And we'll thank our friends at Eastman for allowing us to use the lodge. And we had some great partners in our food service industry who provided meals for us this week. So that was great. Fellowship was great, but most importantly, it was an opportunity to look at a strategic plan. The entire first day was instruction data focused. The second day was operations. So on the first day, we looked at our strategic plan, school data, school system data, our school system, school improvement plan, the school improvement plan for all of our schools. So we're able to really dig in deeply. It was all principals, district level administration, assistant principals, associate principals. So it was a very busy day one. Day two was just as busy, but it was more on the mechanics of the logistics of how to make a school run, school system run, policies, procedures, budget, technology, finance, all of those things were today. So we walk away with good marching orders and directions, and principals now go back to their schools, and not that any of them really had their sleeves rolled down, but definitely roll them up tightly for the next 3 weeks. In a couple of weeks, we have new teacher orientation starting, and then convocation week, and we're back at it again. But it was a very good and productive 2 days.
When is convocation?
I think it's the 30th.
That is going to be on Tuesday morning, the 30th of July.
July 30th. Before you know it, we'll have to be
3
under
weeks
Friday
from
Night
today.
Lights.
Yeah,
I
3
can't
weeks
wait.
from today. And
That's the only good thing about summer coming to a close is Friday night football.
And one thing I'd ask you all to start thinking about is a time when you might want to tour the dome. We're getting to that place where it's there's an opportunity to go through and see the work. It's quite remarkable from where we were. We've made great progress. We're working with incredible partners, from our architect to the construction, Preston Construction. They've been excellent, and I know Dr. Chu has kept you updated in those bi-weekly memos. But if you have a date that you'd like to recommend, I was thinking maybe before the July work session, we could meet there if we wanted to. We certainly can do that, or we can find another date. It doesn't. I'll make it work because I'm excited about the progress, and I think you'll be excited to see it in person.
Go through there together.
Yeah, I think
see the fruits of the labor.
Yeah, it has actually been quite remarkable. So we'll find a time to do that.
So if we could just potentially put on our schedules, that would be July 23rd, maybe at 5 o'clock, meeting there at 5 o'clock, and then we'll check with Mr. Golden and see if that's possible for a tour. July 23rd at 5 o'clock. And if that doesn't work, we'll find something else, but since most of us are here. Okay, if there are no further discussion, then we will conclude the meeting. The meeting's adjourned. Roll Tribe.